Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 257 at scavengerlife.com from New Orleans.
Trash Shelf Radio from New Orleans.
Yes.
Okay, Ryan. What do we do this week? We have flown from Seattle to New Orleans, and we've been having a very nice week here in New Orleans. We've been staying in the Bywater, for those of you who are familiar with New Orleans.
Yes, so we have a job we're doing, a tech job, but we got here 3 nights early.
Yep.
To basically just chill out a little bit.
Yep. This is how we do it with our lives. This is what scavenging has afforded us, is that time to enjoy ourselves.
Yes.
Okay, that made me think of something we were mentioning last week, which we got some emails about this, and that's called geographic arbitrage.
Now, someone who coined that phrase, I don't know.
So in the financial independence community, the FI community, we had interviewed Jim, who's in that, where it's like people are like trying to just do their numbers. If I have a good job and make a lot of money, and if I save it, then I can retire really young.
Yeah.
Or at least just, then I don't have to work.
Right. If I don't want to.
Right. And one part of this idea is, one strategy is called geographic arbitrage, and that's if I live somewhere expensive,
right,
it takes me longer to gain financial independence, versus if I just move somewhere cheaper, right, I can suddenly get to where I need to be a lot quicker.
Right.
And, we were talking about that last week when we were in Bend, where, like, a little tiny 1,000 square foot house is like $300,000
plus.
Yeah. And we were just talking about how, if we were to have lived there, we would have thought of like, well, let's just move somewhere cheaper, because this would be very difficult to live a good lifestyle.
I mean, we did that,
Right. And so, I guess before we even knew that term,
right,
the logic made sense to us. We moved from San Francisco, where we were not struggling, but, all of our money was going to
rent,
living expenses, and we were saving, but it was very slow.
Yeah.
We were paying $1,300 a month.
I mean, $1,300 a month, if you talk about that now in San Francisco, people are like, that is dirt cheap. But, for us, we were like, we're paying so much money and we don't own anything.
It's true. And so, we got some emails after I mentioned that, and it was either, and they had been on the two extremes. One side was, doesn't it make total sense? Why wouldn't you move somewhere cheaper?
Right.
It's not a big deal. Like, that's just logic.
Right.
And then on the other side would be, some people were just saying like, well, it sounds easy to just pick up and move, but I have family. This is where my job is. Yep. This is, I have kids in school, so it becomes more of an emotional thing than a logical thing. And like in the financial independence groups of people, a lot of them are like young single dudes, where they have it's nothing to lose,
right?
And they're and some of them are even like coders, programmers,
so they can go anywhere.
And they talk about things like, I went and I lived in the Philippines for 3 years. I was making $120,000. I was spending $10,000 to live there because it's so cheap. That's like extreme arbitrage.
Right.
And I do understand, families have to be more, they have to think through.
Yeah, many decisions.
Picking up and moving to a cheaper place, a rural area.
Well, and another part of it, too, is like people who live in a place like New York City or San Francisco or Los Angeles. To live in those places is to experience a lot of culture and diversity and great food and, and if a lot of times moving to a cheaper place, even in the suburbs, you just like lose that.
Well, that's something we've experienced. We've had a luxury in between our gigs of being in Bend and now it's New Orleans, and it was just wonderful. We wake up in the morning, you walk outside, you go down to a cool coffee shop.
It's just so much culture, and like
there's like a barbecue place right down the street from us where we've been eating like lunch.
Some of the best food in the city is like right in our neighborhood, and you're like, oh my God.
And just it's just been fun, Our thing is we love taking walks.
Yeah.
And walking where there are people, because it's just you just get a sense of an area, and that's just been so great. So I can see why, if you live in a place like this, it might be crazy to think, well, why would I leave here?
Right.
I mean, this is my quality of life, and I guess that's a thing. If that's important to you, then you're obviously then willing to pay what it costs to be there. Because like where we are here, I mean, our rents are about that too, $1,200 for a one-bedroom apartment.
And they weren't always like that. I mean, I feel like there's several places in the country where the prices, like Boston. Boston was never an expensive city. It's a college town, Rents are insane in Boston right now.
But, I think for scavengers hearing this, I mean, it might make sense. If scavenging is something you really want to pursue as a living, it might make sense to move somewhere cheaper and somewhere that has good scavenging. Right. I mean, I think those two things are very important. It can't just be cheap and then...
there's literally nothing.
There's bad scavenging around there.
Exactly.
It's got to be both.
Or something that was great for us is we happened to move somewhere that was 2 hours outside of a city. So that's really helpful when you're leaving the city or leaving the country. You can get to a city or get to other cities quickly.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing for us. Like when we met Mikey and Wendy in 2006, seven. Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that had taught us a technique of it's moving somewhere cheap. Because they had moved from New York to New Mexico.
Right.
And after visiting them, we did the move from San Francisco to Virginia, and and I would talk to it's Mikey about this. I mean, it seems like a pretty simple equation. I mean, if you can move 2 hours outside of any urban area, your real estate prices are going to be about half as much,
half or less than half.
So you can still live close enough to a city to enjoy it.
Right.
I mean, I think that the issue that we came across was when you live in a rural, cheap area, how do you make
money,
a living? And that's where scavenging came into play.
That's for us exactly what made sense. Was like, and if you can get a good internet connection, then you're gold. So
so there are people out there that are on a different scale. Some people is like us, are full time, they can move anywhere, and then there will be people who still have a job and could never move because they have to be there.
Right, their whole life is
then
there.
They just scavenge for extra cash. Right. So, it just really depends on people's circumstances.
But I will say that was the biggest part of our strategy for living a more independent life. And after meeting Mikey and Wendy, I remember we talked to them, we interviewed them, and I remember Mikey just being like, everyone should just quit their job, which is obviously a little extreme. But we took that to heart. We were like, what? He's like, Wendy and I want all our time to ourselves, period. I mean, my question was, how the hell do you make money?
Right.
But, we were able to figure that out for ourselves. But if your living expenses are so low, that was the whole thing. We were like, living expenses here are so cheap that we don't have to work. We can work a little bit, work a couple months, however we make it happen, and then we don't work for, several months or something.
Yeah, it's nice. And, the other thing about being on this trip, so we go home on Saturday, we will have been gone for about a month.
Yeah.
Is just, it's the insanity of this idea of a 5 or 10 day vacation.
Right.
That I used to have. I mean, like when I had a good job, that's what they did. They gave you, week, 2 weeks of paid vacation.
Right.
They rarely ever allowed me to take it all at one time.
Yeah.
And so, these vacations I would go on would be very short. Like just by the time you're starting to enjoy it, you got to go back home,
Well, it's like when we were in Bend, we were in Bend for 8 nights, which for most people would be like, that's a long time. I was so sad to leave because we had just begun to realize all the little places we like to go, where we like to walk, where we wanted to hang out during the day, where a couple hiking trails that were just beautiful. Yeah. It's I just want to be here for a month.
Where we like to go eat. So, I mean, I think that's what we've found, that we enjoy staying someplace at least 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
To a month, because then we really can get into the kind of a rhythm of a place and know where we like to eat.
And there's more time to, like, not honestly feel like you have to do anything.
Right.
Like, come on, we gotta go hiking because we gotta leave in like 2 days. And it's like you can just.
We don't want to waste this day.
Yeah, like don't we? Like the weather's perfect. It's gorgeous. Like.
But those are the best kind of vacations, when you can go somewhere and waste a day because there's no hurry. And so that's what scavenging has allowed us. To do, and I think that's been our master plan. Is like we move somewhere cheap. We scavenge for a living, and then kind of once we feel stable, to start going to live in places for a month, and continue to sell. So that way we can have the best of both worlds. We can live in a cheap place, like that's our home base, and then we can go and enjoy. It's New Orleans, or Bend, or Amsterdam, or wherever we want to go.
And that's the beauty of scavenging.
Discover a city.
That's okay. Don't interrupt me. That's the beauty of scavenging too. Is that if you're a scavenger and you allow yourself to put your store on, it's not vacation hold, but change your handling time. You can do that because you don't have a job you have to go to. So you're like, I want to hang out in this city for 2 weeks. You can do it.
This is my dream, and this is something we've talked about, so don't act like we haven't talked about it.
Okay. I won't.
This idea of, I'm so excited about of having a self-driving electric car.
Yes.
So the way I imagine it would be a car where I don't have to drive it.
Right.
And there's no driver's seat. The car itself is just like two kind of seat couches like facing each
benches,
other with like a little table in between. So we could do that, where we could hop in our self-driving car, say,
go here,
drive us to New Orleans, with electricity,
so basically stop at
like stopping to charge up the car, eat something, but the whole way we can be working on our computer, doing our business, and then enjoy a city that we choose to go in, live in. And it's just kind of like this seamless, crazy techno hippie life. It's great.
I mean, according to many, many articles that we've been reading, I mean, the Tesla drives itself now. Kind of. Yeah, I mean, little bit.
Where you have to actually be there and touching the steering wheel, but I think those things are coming.
Right.
Like, there was an article saying that Google's doing a test with its Fiat, Chrysler, where they're giving Google 100 minivans specially built to handle their like AI stuff. Yeah. And that would be cool, like a minivan that's self-driving.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about, that would be incredible.
So, since we've been gone about 3 weeks. Yeah. We have sold 77 items.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
That's a good amount.
So that means, for those of you keeping score, that means 77 items that we have to pack when we get back.
And we still have a week left.
Right.
So it might be, I don't think it'll be up to 100. It might be, though. I don't think we're going to sell 30 things before we come.
What was the most we've ever had to pack? Like 150?
Yeah.
I think we're gone for 6 weeks.
6 weeks. I think it was 150 items. I mean, it was insane.
Yep.
It was a month's worth of stuff. Yep. I did it in 4 days.
And also, to keep track, this is the first time it's ever happened. We still have not had a single buyer say they wanted their money back.
That's the first time that's happened.
We even, our handling time is very clear when things get shipped. We email everyone as soon as they buy something, and 3 out of 10 people will write back and just say no problem.
I can't believe it.
We've had a couple people write to us and say, "Where's my item?"
Or when are you shipping? Even though I've sent the
and then we remind them, and they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So
it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and the idea about the changing your handling time is, if someone writes in your feedback, gives you negative feedback, or even neutral, and says, really long shipping time, you can call eBay and get that removed because you're like, it was within my handling time.
Sure, exactly. And scavenging's been good. We met a friend here. Wendy had actually interviewed him when we first started the podcast a couple of 8 years ago.
Yeah.
His name's Ben.
Ben, and he, like, I think back then he was really into, like, selling, like, New Orleans, like, records and stuff like that. That was kind of, like, his specialty.
Yeah, he had just started out. He was just like
Yeah.
all of us, just kind of like a traveler, like trying to find something to help his income, and he figured it out, and it was cool. He came, he picked us up at 7:30. It's one morning, and he was in charge. I loved it. He just took us to estate sales and yard sales.
It was really, he found some amazing stuff that I was like, I wish I had seen what he had seen.
But it was great. I mean, it just showed me that, I mean, you know, it's for us, it's kind of rare to find people that are just so, just where scavenging is a way of life.
Right.
It's not an extra thing to their life.
It's part of their life completely.
You know, like totally ingrained in their life, and that's what affords him a freedom. Like he's basically makes his money on scavenging as well as some other little side jobs.
Yeah,
but, you know.
But he has really integrated it into his life, where he's like, you know, while we were with him, he's like, okay, we're going to hit this sale, this sale, this sale. There's this store that's like an estate sale clean out. We'll go to Salvation Army. Like he has all his spots, and he picked up something from Craigslist. It was a pink toilet, which was incredible.
From 1973.
1973, because toilets are dated on the inside of the lids.
And he's going to sell that on Craigslist. He's
going to sell it on Craigslist. But it's so perfect because, like, that's exactly like us, where we're like, throw the toilet in the back,
I mean,
you know?
So we picked us up at 7:30. We were done by, 2, and we had he had a truck, like a van-like thing.
Yeah.
It was totally full of his stuff and
our stuff.
Yep.
And the beauty of it was, once we figured out, we can go back to Ben's house after this, and he can help us box this stuff up, and, I can sign in to my own account and print a label or whatever. And it was like perfect, because you're like, I love that this scavenger has the infrastructure. Like, he has everything we have at home. Like, I gotta print this label.
And we shipped 2 boxes home.
We shipped 2 boxes. 1 huge box of books. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing I liked about Ben was, so we hit a lot of estate sales, and we were talking about this. We talked about this on the blog a couple of weeks ago about, did you tell people that it's a seller, keep it a secret? He is on team tell everybody.
Yeah.
So everybody knew him.
Yeah.
They all knew that he sold on eBay.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, They were telling him little tricks and hints and cool things to buy.
And he said one of the estate sale people had, like, opened up a private viewing for him.
Yeah.
I mean, but see, and that's the advantage where they're, like, obviously, they like him and he's friendly and he's built up a relationship with people where they would do that. I'm sure there are other sellers who are, not like that, and people would be like, that guy's a jerk,
I don't know. I mean, but, that gave me evidence that it doesn't matter, and it might even help you. Yeah, he said that he had a morning where he could go in and shop an entire estate sale untouched by himself,
Right.
And that's a good feeling because, especially around here, like the estate sales seemed packed with people.
Right.
It made me kind of nervous because I'm like, people are touching things I want.
Yeah. Well, I think also it just really depends on where you are. We've had good evidence from other scavengers where they're like, oh no, I tell everyone, But for us, I feel like there are people in our area who would not be as happy to know we're sellers because they're like, well, I'm not going to give you a break. Like, I felt that from people before, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm still really hesitant to tell people.
I think, too, there's a difference between maybe telling people at estate sales, who run the estate sales versus... Or auctions versus telling people at like flea markets or yard sales, like
because they're more independent.
It's different because we actually talked to one of the guys here that ran an estate sale who it's knew Ben and knew he sold online, and what he was saying was he likes to sell to dealers because they buy about half of what he sells, and he understands that the dealers are the ones that help him clear out these houses.
Right.
Like, he can't just depend on
just individuals,
just regular people coming and buying a trinket.
Especially because sellers, eBay sellers, etc., we see the wider picture. Like, we're like, I don't need any of this stuff, but I know someone in, some other country needs it or whatever. And individuals are like, oh, I might get some kitchen stuff for myself. They're not going to buy in bulk like we are, So that's the advantage.
And what that guy said, that it ran the estate sales, he understands that he needs to leave enough meat on the bone, is the way he said it. Because I asked him, why doesn't he just price things really high? And he said, because if he did that, then the people that dealt, the dealers wouldn't buy in bulk.
Right.
And, he understands.
They need to get a deal too.
And I just feel that was very enlightened, and I just don't know how common that is,
Right. Yeah.
Because, anyway.
Yeah, no, I think as time goes by, we'll feel what we feel we want to do, but, it also kind of obvious when you're like buying like piles of stuff.
I think I'm just kind of, it's funny we're doing this podcast, so
I know what you're gonna say.
I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm a private person.
Yeah.
I just don't want people to know my business, but then at the same time,
here we are, like, publicly.
But I'm not going to meet 99.9% of people who hear this.
Well, and the people who hear this are doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm broadcasting this to like a state.
This is like a little secret channel.
Secret, yeah. Underground, the underground.
Shh. Now I will say the last thing about what I love about being in a city is I agree that thrift stores are mostly totally overpriced, and it's like a retail store.
Yes.
Like, I remember we went to Bend to the Goodwill, and it's like walking into TJ Maxx.
Yeah.
It feels like that. Like, it's neatly organized. I think they even take over the spaces that are like TJ Maxx.
Right.
It's like a big store. So I get that. I will say, though, how I love yard sales in those kind of places.
Yes.
So in Bend, we went to just a yard sale. We were having coffee in the morning. They were smart. They put a sign
right across from the coffee shop
where the yard sale was, and we walked over there. And it was like, a youngish couple and their kids, and they had all their stuff out. And they had stuff that was brand new
shoes
for sale.
Yeah.
So the guy had all these shirts and flip-flops and it's running shoes, and she had
clothes too.
And I bought a pair of running shoes from him that were going to sell for $120, and they had never been worn. He said they had never been worn, and he sold them to me for $4.
Well, and then there's this other pair of women's shoes that are handmade leather shoes made in LA
called Sidewalk.
Sidewalk, and spelled all weird. I've actually sold a pair of sandals of those before for a lot of money, and so I was like, ooh, she's going to want a lot of money for these. And she's like, no, I want $4 for them. And then a second later, she goes, those are $500 shoes. And I'm like, I act surprised, but I knew that that's what they were.
Right.
But I'm like, why are you selling them to me for $4?
Yeah, it's so interesting. It wasn't even like they didn't even understand what was going on. They
just, you know what? There are different people in the world where they have enough money that it doesn't matter.
I guess.
That they're just like, well, I don't want to mess with it. Let's just get rid of it.
So that is, the one thing people in urban areas have over us, country folk. Okay, for eBay this week, we had a pretty good week. Better than we've had before. I know some people on the blog were saying things have been really slow, but, I guess it's different for everyone. We had a couple slow weeks. It's a couple weeks ago, and now we did okay.
Right.
So let's do the numbers for this week. We had a good week, even though we didn't list anything. We've been traveling, all that stuff. Okay.
Not shipping anything.
Our main store, we sold about $1,400 worth of stuff.
Ooh.
We sold 19 items. What helped us was we had a couple of large sales.
Yes.
High dollar sales. In our second eBay store, we sold 9 things for $400.
Ooh, that's good too.
Which is great. Our second store has been kind of like cranking along, making, between $300 and $500 a month. That's great for us. Amazon, we sold 14 things for about $500. So
that's gross.
Yeah, gross. So I'm still, again, I know people are tired of hearing this, but still trying to figure out how to get all my numbers correct with
We'll figure it out.
all the fees. I think we might actually try out Inventory Lab that people keep talking about.
because it's all there.
There's like you can do a 1 month. It's free, so I might just try it and see what kind of numbers it spits out.
Yeah.
Okay, things we sold.
Okay, this was a really funny thing that sold yesterday that I just laughed at. We had this little porcelain plate with a kitten and some butterflies on it that I guess I'm thinking was in a box lot.
Absolutely.
One of those, like...
At an auction, you just get a box of junk. You know, we only are interested in a couple things, but then you realize there's all this other stuff. And it's about the size of like a...
It's like a little tea saucer.
It's like a silver dollar almost. I mean, it doesn't even seem that big.
It's small. Yeah, it's small. It's not a silver dollar, but... and it sold for $13. I know that sounds so silly, but you're like, man... People really buy lots of weird stuff on eBay.
Now, you know, we've mentioned this before, but it just seems it's a consistent thing for us, and that is like employee hats at like fast food and big box stores. So I sold an Arby's hat for $25.
Now, I will say, isn't that Arby's hat like a vintage trucker hat? Or is it like a real...
I don't know
employee hat.
I don't know how vintage it is.
Oh, really?
I mean,
$25.
It could be. I don't know, but it's like a Arby's hat that an employee wears.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
vintage.
vintage Arby's.
Really so this is another weird sale. 2 vintage steel document clips. Like, you know, clips you just hold papers together with, but they're definitely old. Like, they have kind of an Art Deco look. Those sold for $20.
Yeah, I mean, and these things we're talking about are just kind of amazing to us.
Yeah.
Because they're just like it's knickknacks, but, you know, we've figured out who buys this kind of stuff. Like, someone that buys this has like a desk with like a typewriter and like an inkwell.
Right.
And then they bought these like steel document clips that would go on paper. So it just looks like their desk looks like...
It looks vintage.
A Mad Men, not even Mad Men before that. You know?
Okay, this tie organizer is all you.
Okay. This is just something, I saw at a flea market. I guess it's just like of another generation, you know? Men that have a lot of ties, how do you figure out where all your ties are? So it's like, it hangs on the wall. It's got all these like little clip things that you hang the ties on, and this one just happened to be like of a dog's.
It's Irish
head.
setters.
And I bought it, I know, for $1, and it sold for $50.
Yeah. And the paint is peeling off it. Maybe that's part of the appeal. It looks cool.
Maybe.
So we had bought this big, like, room-size wool rug. It's kind of a farmhouse-looking, like, Americana-style wool rug, not Persian or Asian or anything like that. I think we paid, like, $70 for it. I think we were willing to pay high because we were like, we're going to use this for our rental. But you know what? It didn't work out. It wasn't right for the room. It was too big for the room or whatever. And we sold it for full price for $400.
Yep.
Global shipping to Canada.
And, you know, that's what we're doing right now for this other rental we got. We're, like, buying stuff as we see it and just accumulating it. And it's, like, just in a storage building. And then when it's ready to put the stuff in there, we'll, like, pull it all out and then see what works, what doesn't work.
We call
just
it.
Sell the stuff we don't need.
Yeah, because you can sell anything. So the next funny sale was these little, like, cotton Dutch egg covers, like these little, like, fabric egg, what are they, like hard-boiled egg covers from Amsterdam?
Well, I'm the one that saw that at the flea market in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
They're like little coats.
They're cozies.
For eggs. And I was laughing about it.
It's
like
an egg coat.
Like, it makes the egg, it look like a little girl or like a little boy.
Yeah. They're to keep your hard-boiled egg warm.
I know. It's just kooky. I bought them for, I don't know,
$1
€3
or
cheap.
something.
And we sold them for $37.
Yeah. Those are cute. So our highest sale was this painting, this mid-century, it was dated 1957, this mid-century kind of abstract-ish portrait of someone. We sold it for $450. I had it listed for $1,250.
Crazy.
We bought it for $25. There was this auction we went to, and this guy was bidding on all these paintings. And the sucky thing was the auctioneer bundled a couple paintings, and we were like, dope, we wanted that one, you know? So this guy kept bidding up because he wanted the other one. So we ran into him in the parking lot, and we were like, we really want that portrait. He's like, great, I don't want it. Just give me $25, because I think he paid like 50 or 70 or something.
Yep.
So we gave him $25 cash.
But this is an example of art, okay? The way that we sell it.
Right.
It's not signed. It's not by anyone famous. It's not collectible.
Right.
So just wipe all that out of, people's minds.
Right.
It's not, you can't find it online to research it and price
it's an unknown artist.
It just looks
It was awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
And it had a certain style that just was very attractive. We were willing to put a high price on it. It took 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
To get an offer of $450. And we jumped at it.
Yeah, I was like, I paid $25. Absolutely.
Okay, the couple more things just of interest. Again, this is an example of just like kind of a weird thing that I found at a flea market, and that is like a door harp. I don't know if I didn't really know what
I've
this
seen
thing
them
was.
before.
It's like an Appalachian door harp. It's a piece of wood. It sits like on a door, and it's got these little wooden beads on strings. So when you open the door, they kind of bounce up and down on these wires, and they make a sound.
For some reason, growing up, like all these people in New England had those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Anyway, just like one of those things that was probably bought at like a touristy shop somewhere.
Yeah.
In the whatever. And anyway, I bought it for $1, sold for $35.
Yeah, that was
and
a good sale.
It's one of those things I would never buy again to sell, and I'm glad it sold.
Yeah, it was one of those random things. Another small wool rug sold. It was 2 feet by 1 foot, so it's like kind of like small and skinny. And I think I had that up for like $125, $135, and someone offered $90. I think I actually paid $15 or $20 for it, but I made $90, so I'm happy.
But the amazing thing is, it's 2 foot by 1 foot.
It's little. It's like a table. Put it on a table.
It's like to put on a
something.
table for a lamp. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
something
incredible.
like that.
And then the last thing we'll talk about, we sold another brass rubbing.
Yeah, brass rubbing. So these are rubbings that were done in the 60s and 70s in Britain of famous temples, churches, graves, things like that. This was, I don't know if this is real or if it's just a plaque. It was William Shakespeare's grave. It's either his grave or just a plaque
I think
at
it's just
church,
a plaque
something
at
like
his
that.
church,
But it
yeah.
said something about William Shakespeare. I don't know where we got it. I don't remember. It sold for I went back and forth with someone. I think I had it up for $165 or something, and I finally got this person up on counter offers up to $125. So that's a great price, $125.
Yeah, just, I mean, it was just a good mix of different kinds of stuff. I mean, good, solid sales where we made a lot of money.
High dollar
And then there's
sales.
other sales that were just like stuff I want to just get rid of.
Yep.
And it's just nice that it sells.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple of customer issues. It's this week.
So this lady overseas, she was actually in Poland. I thought she was in the UK, but she's in Poland. She bought a jacket through Global Shipping Program. She wrote this big long note how she didn't like the color. She didn't think it was a light enough beige compared to a jacket she once owned. It was insane. I'm like, what are you talking about? So obviously that's buyer's remorse.
Right. For anyone new, if a buyer says that in a message that they don't like the color, that's buyer's remorse.
Because, and eBay knows this, if you say in your listing it's beige, like in the item descriptions you said it's beige, and someone goes, this isn't as light beige as I thought it was, that is not your fault. You've described it. Everyone has different, computer monitors, whatever.
Right.
So the problem is she called it not as described or defective. So that means I have to pay for shipping, blah, blah, blah. So I called eBay and I was like, clearly this is buyer's remorse over color. And they said, yep. So you can accept the return and you do not have to pay for a label. You can say, won't pay for a label. And once she sends it back, you refund her through PayPal minus your restocking fee, and then you call us to get it closed. And they said they took note of it on my account that's what will happen. So.
Right. And it's just one of those things where it just seems so crazy that someone, I mean, the jacket only costs, what, $40?
$40, yeah.
I mean, that this person's going to pay for all the shipping to Poland, and you're going to ship it all the way back.
It's like, in my opinion, I'm like, just keep it.
Right.
Like, why? You're going to lose money. Like, just keep it and wear it. I don't know.
And then this is almost kind of the exact same thing. We sold a bottle of perfume. Hang on real quick. We said a bottle that had perfume in it, and there was a trace amount of perfume.
Right.
And it was clearly listed in the title and in the description and in the photo that there's just a little bit of perfume. She bought it. She's in Israel. And after we shipped it, she's like, oh, this isn't a full bottle of perfume.
And so by saying after we shipped it, it was like, I shipped it that morning, and then that afternoon, she's like, oh, I want to cancel this. I was like, I've already shipped this.
Right. And we told her we would gladly, she can mail it back, and we'll give her back her money for the item. And so she's mailing that back. So she's also going to be paying like whatever, $40
for like a $18 bottle of perfume.
It doesn't make sense.
She's like, just keep it. I don't know. People are crazy. But you know what? If they're paying, gladly take it back if they want to pay all the fees and stuff. So,
okay, a couple of news things about eBay. So everyone's been talking about the changes to store subscriptions in eBay.
Yes.
That prices are going up.
Yep.
But, everyone's getting like all kooky about its coupons for the free tape and shipping supplies.
Why do you say they're getting kooky? Because it's such a great service.
I don't mean kooky bad. I just mean like people are like talking about it and buying tape and boxes.
So here's the deal. The most exciting thing was for us, we got a coupon for our main store that was $75
because it's an anchor.
Because it's an anchor store. Right. And then we got a coupon for the smaller store for $25 because we have a smaller store. I'm sorry, for $50. We have a medium-sized store. Whatever that's called. Premier or whatever. And so the problem was I was all ready to buy a ton of tape because that's what I spend the most money on shipping supplies is tape. And bubble wrap, but they're not selling bubble wrap. And all the tape was gone. The store had completely sold it out of tape. And I wrote to them and said, when are you going to have more tape? And they were like, we didn't realize that the demand... It's so funny. It's like if they had talked to any seller who sold on eBay professionally, they'd know that the tape would run out.
I just wonder, like, what did they think would happen? Because, I mean, I don't know how many people have store subscriptions. I mean, would it be 10,000? I mean, it's got to be more than that. I mean, if they're selling $5 billion worth of stuff, it must be. But I don't know. Why don't we say thousands of sellers and they give everyone a coupon at the same time? Like, what would they expect to happen?
It's like all gone. Well, anyway, so I did on our smallest store, I used the $50, I think it was $50, coupon to buy poly mailers and some smaller eBay branded boxes that are real, because first class is up to 16 ounces or it's 15.999 ounces. Those small boxes are super helpful for doing first class items. So I bought a bunch of those. I think I bought like 50 of those.
And then we're waiting to use the coupon to buy tape when they get it. Because this is an important thing for people that haven't been keeping up. It's a one-time only coupon.
Yes.
So if you have a coupon worth $50 and you only buy $10 of tape and you use its coupon, then if you lose the other, it's $40.
Right.
It's not like it's an account that you can spend against.
Right. It's like, yes.
So the best thing is to buy it's $51 worth of stuff. Pay the $1, but then get the full $50.
The full $50. Yeah. That's what I ended up doing. And you just have to remember that when you're doing, because most coupons don't work, or people think of it as a gift card.
It's not a gift card.
It's not a gift card. It's a one-time coupon. It's a window. Like,
Now,
you have up to this much.
Now, I'm going to put a link on the blog where you can find out about this more. But how did it work when you actually checked out?
So you have to go in. It's really convoluted. You have to go into your like manage your store link, which if you have the new seller hub, is nowhere. So you have to figure out how to get to the old page somehow. Go to manage my store or Google a link or whatever, and then you'll see these like store promotions. I don't even know if that's what it's called on the left, and it'll say new, and you click on that, and it gives you your coupon code. It's so convoluted.
Yeah, it should just be like.
Well, and the other thing is, I would not have known that this was even available yet unless someone had said something, because I didn't see any email notification. That I don't think they emailed anyone.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't get an email.
I think this is when I love the fact that we have a little group of people to help each other out, because people were being very helpful. Like, they'd already figured it out. I loved how Mike, I think he's in Atlanta, was just like, he figured out how thick the tape was and was making sure it would be good tape. So
yeah,
it was good.
I want that tape.
Okay, the other thing, just some news, and again, I'll put this link on the blog. It's about Aloha shirts, or Hawaiian shirts. You know, it's funny, like, and this might be the time to list your Hawaiian shirts if you have them. There's this trend in the fashion world, like it's fashion, where designers are like putting Hawaiian prints into their clothes. And, I mean, they're basically just Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
But now these designers are making Hawaiian shirts, you know, and they're like $500.
Right, I'm looking at these.
$995.
$900? What is that made out of?
And this article kind of just talks about how it's kind of a trend. And, you know, these are things to look out for. So if you have them...
Yeah, sell them.
People will be probably looking for them if that's what people start to see on the runways or on the streets.
Yep.
Okay, things we learned in the comments.
Selling clothes. There's a lot of talk about selling clothes.
And it's good. There's kind of a new guy that popped up on the blog, Fred's Premium. And he's a new eBay person, that, as far as I can tell, and he mainly focuses on clothes.
Yeah.
And we were just all kind of talking about, is it smart to only sell clothes? And, you know, there's differing opinions. I mean, we've talked about how we started with only selling clothes, would have kind of branched out.
Yeah.
It was more for us about just getting bored of clothes.
Yeah. All the measurements.
Yeah. But, you know, there's also this idea of, like, clothing is like what almost every new person on eBay starts with.
Right.
Because it's just like, it's almost like a recipe now. Start an eBay store. Go to Goodwill. Buy a bunch of clothes. Sell them on eBay.
Sell them cheap.
Like, that's kind of its recipe. So there's kind of a glut.
Yeah.
In some people's minds.
Right.
However, Dan, him and his wife, who we interviewed, you know, they sell clothes.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively.
Right.
And baseball cards, but mainly clothes.
A lot of clothes,
and he's just like, clothes are great, you know?
Well, the great thing that he said was people will always buy clothes. And he's like, he's not talking about designer clothes, and he's not talking about vintage clothes. He's talking about basic jeans, t-shirts, sweatshirts, stuff you wear every day. Most everybody. Yeah. That's what I'm wearing right now.
And he, you know, and he even linked to just some things he had sold recently.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a pair of Levi's for $30.
I mean, that's a great $30 if you can get it at a yard sale for a quarter, or a bulk bag sale, or a Goodwill outlet for 79 cents a pound. I mean, you're doing good. That's a great profit.
And you should listen to the interview we did with Dan, because they're the ones that have 6,000 items in the store. Even bigger than our store.
Yeah.
And the way he does it is he hires out that work, so other people take photos for him and a list for him. And the way that he does it is he does not do its measurements. Because
now, he's got contemporary clothes. So if he says, this is an express sweatshirt, it's a medium women's, that's probably going to fit me.
Yeah. And you know what? I know that even we kind of were like, wait a second, you've got to have measurements. But he's right. I mean, and if someone wants to return it, they can return it. But when I go into a store, again, these are his words and they make sense. I don't like take a measuring tape just to see
Right.
how big the sleeves are. I'm like, yeah, I'm a medium, so that's for me.
Well, we have argued if you go into a store, you try stuff on.
True.
But like we're saying, especially for men's jeans, if you're like, it's a 32-30, you're like, that's
Right.
my size.
But the argument about the danger of clothes is, again, because it's not that people will ever stop buying clothes. It's just that there's a glut on the market,
Right?
Because so many
competing.
people are
Yeah.
selling that stuff.
Yeah.
But if the numbers work out,
Yeah.
I find like the people that make a living selling clothes are people that list a lot. Like
volume.
I personally have never seen a seller on eBay that has like 200 items in their store. It's making
Right.
a ginormous amount of cash. It's
Right.
only the people like Amazing Taste or Dan,
Yeah.
they have like thousands of listings, and they're selling hundreds of items a week.
Yeah, so we'll link back to those 2 interviews about them doing clothes because they are high volume sellers. They list every day. Well, Dan hires people to list, but they list every day.
Yeah.
And they sell like crazy. So it is possible. Okay, what is our coming week like, Jay?
So, this is this is just our life. So we are working this week at our kind of like jobs.
Tech job.
Yep. And so we will be doing no eBay, no
scavenging. We'll
listing,
be in a
no
convention
scavenging.
center for 6 days
Once we get
straight.
this podcast up, we're just going to be kind of offline all a week, and then we fly home. It's next week, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to.
It's really funny. Like, I love to travel and I love to experience new places and stuff, but I really miss home.
Yeah.
I miss our chill lifestyle.
I miss, being able to go home and just waking up and just having our own rhythm of like, taking my photos on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss that.
Drinking my coffee.
Yeah, and just
packing stuff.
I do miss that.
Okay, so let's listen to some questions on the voicemail line. The phone number is 540-407-8486, and you have 3 minutes to leave a message, a question, or a comment that will play on the podcast.
Hey, Jay and Ryan. Thought I'd call and tell you and your listeners a situation I had on eBay this last week. I had them listed for $350, and I had a buyer contact me and just through the messages asked me if I would accept $300 for the item. And I told him I would, and at the time I was not at home. I only had my cell phone, and so I couldn't return the message. I couldn't make an offer, send him an offer through the message system because I didn't see the button. And he was in France, so he said he was going to bed. So I said when I got home I sent him a message or an invoice. So I got home, I went to my messages on my tablet laptop, and I was going to hit that button that says, send an offer or make an offer or whatever that button says, and it wasn't there. And I looked around, I thought maybe I closed it and came back in. We had several messages going back and forth. I thought, well, maybe it's only the first message, and I looked in there and it wasn't there. So I contacted eBay, and after several gyrations, we closed our deal. He bought the item for $300, and I shipped it today. But when it was all done, I went back into the messages. Or I guess first I should say, when I talked to the person on eBay support, they told me that feature in the messages where you can send a buyer an offer. He said that was a beta option, and it's not a permanent thing, or it was something that they were testing. And I thought, oh man, that's horrible. So when my transaction was all done, I went back in there. I was just going to send the guy a message saying, thank you for working with me on this transaction, have a nice day. And that button was there that would allow me to send him an offer. Crying out loud. So I don't know if this person knew what they were talking about or what really happened, but that feature doesn't sound like it's permanent. I hope it will be. Talk to you later.
So, 2 things. The crazy thing to me is that it sounds like it is buggy. I have seen that before where I've tried to respond to someone with an offer and it wasn't there. So I had to add make offer and tell them to make an offer. But most of the time it's there. The other thing that I don't like, especially traveling, like this happened to us a couple hours ago. We were out walking around and someone's like, would you take $40 for this? And I'm like, yeah, I would, but I got to wait till I get on my computer because the mobile app doesn't allow you to send an offer.
Right. I feel like the mobile app is made by a different team than the website.
Yeah.
And they haven't really integrated. So if I want to send an offer, the app wants to go into the website. Like,
right.
It wants to open up at your mobile browser and make you log into the website
when you're already logged into the app.
It's just so
crazy.
Yeah, it's not
crazy. I agree with you. It's very convoluted, and they should just fix that.
Now, I will say what I always tell Ryan. She gets angry at me when this happens. Someone says, "I want to buy something for $25."
Right.
If it gets complicated like that, just change the price of the item.
Change the price. That's good.
Don't send an offer. Don't whatever.
Yeah.
Just change a price and just say, "Go ahead and buy it. Anyone can buy it."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think that's good. If you're on the run, on the phone, whatever, and you want to make that sale, you just say, "Okay, I changed the offer." And I've said this before too. Please buy within the next 12 hours because I'm going to change it back. You know, right. So it's not just sitting there for 20. Although, if you'd accept $25 from one person, if someone else buys it, who cares? Because you are willing to take that offer.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Ryan. This is Mark. I've called in a few times. Love your podcast. I know you don't like the talk about conspiracy theories on eBay search engines and all that. And I am with you. I usually agree 100%. It's a lot of scare tactic stuff. But I was talking to this guy and on a podcast or at a antique mall, and he sells on eBay, and so does his kids. And he said eBay rolled out a new search engine about a year ago, and he's still finding bugs in it. And I tested what he was saying, and it is kind of true. Just for an example, type in Vietnam field jacket. And I did it in all categories. And all of a sudden it came up, and then all of a sudden it switched from all categories to just uniforms. And only 250 listings came up. And then if you switch it to all categories, like 585 come up. So, I mean, it switches it on its own without me switching, even though I started in all categories. And he was having a hard time even finding his own listings. And he's called eBay and this and that, and he can't get anywhere. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, that they are having issues with their search engine. It's changing what they're looking for sometimes. And my business has been fine. I have not seen a decrease. But he said that his kids last year, on average, they sell about $250,000 worth of clothes. They only sold $200,000 last year, and he's blaming the search engine. Whether that's the case, I don't know. But just try that little experiment and see if it comes up the same way. You might have to do it a couple times, wait a minute to make sure. Sometimes it takes a second to switch from all categories to uniforms, but it does happen. So thanks for your podcast. Talk to you later.
Yes, I have seen that happen. I don't think it's a bug.
Well, no. So we actually, as soon as we heard this, when Mark called in, we actually tried it.
Yeah.
And what it is, and Amazon does this too, where you'll type in a search Vietnam jackets, and then a list pops down.
It's like suggestions
before you hit its return, and it says what Vietnam jackets in militaria or in jackets or in wherever.
Right. The problem is...
And so real quick.
Okay.
So if you don't choose one of those, it chooses
it
for you. And that's the thing. So if you're not specifically choosing which category you want to search in, then it kind of chooses what it thinks is the best. So it's not a bug. That's just how the system works.
The system works. And I understand why that's a bummer, because sometimes I will list... like a Vietnam jacket in men's jackets because I want a wider audience. I don't want it to be narrowed down to military collectibles. I want some hipster in Brooklyn to buy my military jacket in men's jackets.
And so, I think that's where again, yeah, I wish it might be. I don't really know a fix here,
Right.
but really, it's your choice. So if you are selling a Vietnam jacket, some green military jacket, if you're imagining the person who's going to buy this is a military person, that's why it's you specifically dig down into a certain category.
Right.
But like as Ryan said, if you're just thinking, okay, the person that's going to buy it is like a hipster, then you pull out of the categories and you're in the most general category. Here you go. If you want to be really specific, you're in like Vietnam era, it's militaria, your pool of competitors are going to be very small.
Right.
But you have to assume the person searching knows how to get down into that very specific. Yeah. If you want to have a very general search, you're going to have a wider range of people, but you're going to have a huge competition because you're competing against hundreds and thousands of other kind of coats.
Right.
So really, it's not a bug. It's just that you have to choose where you want your competition to be.
Hey, Scavenger Life, it's Big Bobby. I got a couple quick questions. I've been selling on eBay or buying on eBay for 16 years. Perfect score. My ratings are perfect. I can't do this 50 items a month. It just doesn't work. I need a store. I realize that. First question. If I started a 500 item store, is there much trouble transitioning to a 2,500 item store? That's my first question. My second question. The things that I have listed now, can I roll them over in the new store? Okay. Number 3, keep in mind I have 5,000 items. I'm a collector. And I may have $100,000 worth of stock if I don't go look for anything else. And I have expertise in several areas. How does that look as a way to just launch with my own things? If I can get 500 on there, good. If I can get 1,000, however many I can get with the time I have a full-time job. Give me the layout transition from a regular buyer to a store. Appreciate it. Thank your work. The Scavenger Life website, and have a good week.
Hey, Big Bobby. All right.
Okay, so here's the deal. If you don't have any store subscription, or you have one and you want to go up to the next level, there's no transfer. You just pay the next tier.
Yeah, there's no complication. I mean, really, they just want your money. So if you're willing to pay for a subscription at any level, you just start, and then they allow you to list more at a certain price.
Right.
And really, it's, none of this is a mystery. It's just like if you have a 100 item store now and you want to have 500, it means you just have to list 400 more items.
Yeah.
So it's really just about putting the time in.
You just upgrade your store. They give you a bigger tier, and then you just go for it.
And again, the only thing about store subscription is simply the price per item. So, if you don't have a store subscription, God, someone has to fact check me.
It's like 20 cents.
It's like 25 cents or something.
Right. And then within the store subscription, they say you can have this many listings for free every month. And then after that, it's X amount.
Right. And then, so, we have like the highest subscription, and a listing's 10 cents an item. But
after a certain amount.
But we get, now we get 10,000 free listings.
Yeah, we're about to.
Anyway, so it's, I wish that it was just all free.
Yeah.
And they just charge you a final value fee. But, I guess they got to pay for servers and stuff. So hope that helps.
Hello, Scavengers. I have a question for you. I sold a really nice hat to a buyer, and 27 days later, she unexpectedly gave me neutral feedback and said the hat was a kid's size and not an adult size. Well, I know it was an adult size, so I don't know where she was coming from. But anyway, I sent her a message and said, hey, if I give you a full refund, will you, remove your neutral feedback on me? And she replied back and said, yes, she would do that. And so I'm getting ready to give her a refund. The hat was only like $15 anyway, plus postage. So I figure I'll, if I can get the neutral feedback removed by just giving her a refund, I'll do that. But the thing is, she came back and said, well, I don't know how to remove feedback. And my problem is I don't know how to tell her how to remove neutral feedback and change it into positive or just take it off altogether. So I'm wondering if you folks can help me figure out how to tell my buyer how to remove her neutral feedback on an item that she bought from me. Thanks so much, and hope your travels are going well. Bye.
Okay, so number one, if you didn't know how to get it changed or get your buyer to change it and you couldn't figure it out, you gotta call eBay and ask them how to do it.
Well, you can also Google it too. Google, how do I send my buyer a feedback
reversal or feedback change?
So every seller can, I think, send 3 of these per a year, where it's a special message that you send to the buyer through eBay.
It's like a special request message.
And I think they get a button where they can then change it.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
Right.
So it's nothing. So I don't think. I'm not sure if they can do it without you doing it.
No, you have to request
Right.
it. It kind of sucks.
And that's the thing, though. If you're dealing with someone that isn't, like, technically savvy or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know. And also, you have to be careful. The way you worded it to them is called whatever, feedback hijacking, or what do you call it?
Oh, it's called feedback extortion.
Right. You cannot say, if you take away the negative feedback, I'll give you your money
refund
back, because then you're like trying to
No,
bribe them.
But you say, I will gladly give you, a $15 refund or a full refund, and I would love it if you're not allowed to say that.
This is the way
I don't understand
This is
that.
the way I understand it, and it's more of like, I don't know. It seems about the same thing. First, you say, "I'm sorry that you aren't happy. Can I give you a refund, or
Right.
can you return it, and I'll give you your money back?" I mean, first, you have to make them happy. Done.
Yeah.
Once that's taken care of, you can then email and be like, "Okay, I'm glad everything's okay. Would you consider changing your feedback?" So those two actions are completely
separate.
different,
Yeah.
One cannot be contingent on the other,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, and honestly, that's why when we get like a neutral or negative feedback, we just don't really mess around with trying to get it reversed through the buyer. We try and get it reversed through eBay,
Exactly.
So anyway, we would love to hear a follow-up if you were able to figure out how to get that person to change it.
All right, that's it for this episode. You can check out the blog at scavengerlife.com for the links we discussed and to join in the conversation. You can always leave a question or a comment on something you heard. The phone number again is 540-407-8486. We post an episode every Sunday night or Monday morning. On Wednesdays, we post our What Sells video that shows what we sold and how much we sold it for. You can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube so you always get the latest episode. And if you're interested in hearing more about our Airbnb business, you can listen to our other podcast, and that is called Shampoo and Booze, and that's at shampooandbooze.com. We are ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. You said New Orleans.